forces.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, how you doing? How you doing? Today's Monday, June 27th, 2022. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer, and UNX Networks. Raise Hobbs. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How you doing? How you doing? All right. Whew, man, what a weekend. And if you have been following my posts on social media, you know what went on around here. I'll get to that in just a minute. But tonight, we have very special guest, me. That's right. Tonight, I'm going to be giving a sort of multimedia presentation on the Egyptian pyramids. And I've been preparing for this for a long time, and there's reasons for this. Now, I'm heading to Egypt, coming up very soon here in October with Billy Carson and 80 other friends. And so, but I have been researching Egypt for many, many years. And I'll get to all of this later, but I started preparing information and things and a thought process for a documentary, which is still going to happen, and that'll be in the future. But also in preparation for a lot of public speaking, which I'm usually the host and the MC, and I host the panels, and and I get that, and people want me to interview people and do Fade to Black live. I totally get that. I love doing it, but I've been getting a lot of requests lately to actually do a presentation. So this is also part of that, and I want to get these thoughts out. I just want to get them out. What have I learned? What do I think? What does my brain think about all of this? So that's what we are going to do tonight. Okay. And I hope that you'll find this to be a bit different in the way that I look at things and what I've learned. Tomorrow night, right here on this program, is a huge show. Robert Edward Grant. Robert Grant is with us for the first time. And tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about some math and his work and the concealed codes that are around us. Robert Grant, can you believe it? Tomorrow night here on Fade to Black. And then Wednesday night, Ralph Blumenthal. That's right. Ralph Blumenthal is here. His book, The Believer, is now available in paperback. And this is a really big deal, and we've got a lot to catch up on. Here's what's really strange. It's been exactly a year since Ralph has been on the show. Like June of last year to now. Crazy. And that is Wednesday night, Ralph Blumenthal. And then Thursday, of course, is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Everything that I'm doing, all of our sponsors, all of my weird comments, and stuff, everything is available in the description box below and over at jimmychurchradio.com and throughout all of our social media. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. You can and certainly go to the sandbox in Twitter, which is hashtag F2B. I use TweetDeck. And if you're a user of, let me say, a frequent user of Twitter, you need to have TweetDeck. And once you get TweetDeck, you really won't use Twitter normally, which I don't do. I don't use normal Twitter. I use TweetDeck. So TweetDeck is live in front of me. Here's the sandbox. Here's me. And I've got breaking UFO right here. And I've got hashtag F2BQ down on the end. I've got 4 columns that update automatically. And you should get TweetDeck and enjoy that because there's the sandbox right in front of me. Click, 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 click. And you don't have to do anything. It just runs itself. It's like an automatic transmission. That's right. On a Cadillac. It just shifts itself. That's right. Okay. Follow me over on Instagram if you want to see my guitar world. Well, and this weekend it was my party world. Head over to Instagram at Jimmy Church Radio. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Lots. Oh, man. What a weekend. And with the sky watching and everything else. And then I have this. So I'm going to kick off the breaking news with our moon. The moon has a new, brand spanking new double crater after a rocket body collided with its surface back on March 4th. And we heard about that and we knew it was coming. And there was a mystery behind it, right? The new images shared by NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has been circling the moon since 2009, have revealed the location of the unusual crater. The impact created two craters that overlap, an eastern crater measuring 59 feet across and a western crater spanning 52.5 feet. Together, they create a depression that is roughly 91.8 feet wide in the longest direction. It is a double crater. Typically, spent rockets have the most mass at the motor end because the rest of the rocket is largely just an empty fuel tank, right? Well, here's the mystery. But the double crater suggests that this object had large masses at both ends when it hit the moon. The exact origin of the rocket body, a piece of space junk that had been careening around for years, is unclear. Nobody knows whose rocket it was. So the double crater could help astronomers determine who the owner is. That's right. Somebody is going to get caught. It's not ours. He's telling you it's not ours. Okay. All right. Well, we're about to find out. All right. Also, this happened on Friday. The leader of the QAnon conspiracy theory, which infiltrated the Republican Party, began posting again over the weekend after nearly 2 years of silence. Q, as the figurehead of the movement is known, published three cryptic post on a message board Friday night, the account's first post since December of 2020. The post said, "Shall we play a game once more?" ? End quote. The account posted right there on 8kun. The post was signed Q. The account had a unique identifier which had been used on previous Q posts. When a user asked Q why Q had been absent, Q replied, "It had to be done this way." End quote. Here we go. Oh, man. Here we go. All right. Russia. Vladimir. They have defaulted on their foreign debt for the first time in more than a century, as the country can't pay creditors because of sanctions over the war in Ukraine. The country missed a deadline yesterday to pay $100 million and euro-dominated interest on 2 foreign currency bonds. Some Taiwanese holders of Russian bonds also did not receive interest due yesterday. Holy crap. That ruins your credit rating. I don't know what your credit rating is. Mine's somewhere just above sucky. But hanging tough, though. Hanging tough. But, you just don't want to mess with your credit rating. It's just impossible to fix. And now Russia has. I think they're downgraded to CC, which is CC in English translated is sucky. And that's what that is. So here we go. All right. Crazy world record was set over the weekend. That's right. The record for the deepest shipwreck has been shattered by the discovery of a World War II era U.S. Navy destroyer. It is the USS Samuel B. Roberts. It was found split in two nearly, check this, 23,000 feet below sea level off the coast of the Philippines. 23,000 feet. What was it, Titanic? 17,000 feet? Man, that's deep. All right, James Webb, here we go. That exoplanet hunter, right? And the first light detector on NASA's next generation space telescope is ready to do science. 6 months after the observatory launched into space on Christmas Day last year, the $10 billion James Webb Space Telescope is completing commissions by testing its 4 cutting-edge instruments and their various modes, which will enable Webb to study both distant galaxies and closer-up objects in the Milky Way or the solar system, right? Now, one of those instruments is ready for operations as Webb officials prepare to release the observatory's first operational images in 2 weeks on July 12th. What are they waiting for? Fire it up now. Russia. Ken Priest, man. Ken Priest, he just wants me to put his hat on. Ken, it's way over there. I've got 4 hats here. It's way over there, Ken. Can't do it. Archaeologists have revealed a complex of hidden passageways and galleries deep inside the ancient Chavín de Honter temple complex in the Peruvian Andes. The researchers think the network of chambers and galleries, keyword, was used in religious rituals, possibly involving psychedelic drugs. It's the first time in about 3,000 years that these particular hidden structures have been explored. Some of the dark and isolated chambers may have been used for sensory deprivation, while some of the larger galleries seem to have been used for the worship of idols, said John Rick, a Stanford University archaeologist who was leading the research. Right. Sensory deprivation. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. What did Jay Widener say on the show last month? Man, check. Okay, Ken, you're just causing trouble now, man. I can't keep up with your trouble causing. Ken is cool. Let's get the show cracking. On this day in history, OTD, 1985. They shouldn't have done this, but they did in 1985. Route 66 enters the realm of history when the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials decertifies the road and votes to remove all of its highway signs. Uncool. That's all I got. Fader fact. Okay. Check this. Write this down. Here is your fader fact. Pythagoras of the Pythagoras theorem, Pythagoras was a cult leader. That's right. He claimed he could speak with animals. He claimed he could time travel. And his cult was based on an extreme hatred for fava beans. And that is your fader fact. I'm serious. Pythagorean theorem based on the hatred of fava beans. Look it up. Look it up. Just look it up. Long white robes, fava beans on the back, Ghostbuster symbol, right? How you doing? I'm in a great mood. Tonight, the very special guest is me. I'll be giving my quasi-multimedia presentation on the Egyptian pyramids tonight. Tomorrow night, Robert Grant is with us for the first time. We are going to be discussing the concealed codes that are all around us and a whole lot more tomorrow night with Robert. First time he's been on the show. And then Wednesday night, Ralph Blumenthal. It's a huge week here on Fade to Black, followed up with Thursday night with another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. And trust me, I needed it today. rivermoonwellness.com. Click on the links over at jimmychurchradio.com. The best coffee in the world, according to Jordan Ziff. It's now been certified. It's now been certified. What a weekend. What a weekend. And it's like this. Crazy weekend. And first off, I want to say a big shout out to Billy Carson and Giorgio Tsoukalos, Eric Von Daniken, and the Awakening team, the Awakening Expo team. I think they just wrapped up today with their conference that went on all weekend in Blackpool, celebrating Eric Von Daniken and, Ancient Aliens and the crew and all of that. And the three of them, lit it up all weekend. But I started to get video and text in from Billy. And so I posted stuff over on Facebook. I think I did it on Facebook. I don't think I did it on Twitter. Maybe I did. But I want to thank them because I spoke with Billy on Thursday morning, and he had just arrived in the UK, and we had stuff we had to talk about, and we're doing that. And I was like, oh, that's right. The conference is this weekend. And I wanted to be there so bad. And it's Eric, and it's Giorgio, and it's Billy, and I'm not there. And I was supposed to be, as everybody knows, last year and the year before, and something interrupted travel worldwide. And I'm not going to get over there until next year to Manchester. So, I have to wait. Well, that's fine. But, and I was just bummed out. And Billy goes, man, I'm getting ready, to go to dinner with everybody. And I said, please tell everybody I said hello, and there you go. All right. So, I had done a recording for Blackpool, for Awakening, saying hello to everybody and hello to Eric. And I cracked a couple of jokes, and I'll see you guys next year. But I thought that was for the internet, and that was just, I just did a video for them. And they played that thing in front of the audience. And I get a text from Tsoukalos on Saturday for the party, right before the party started. And it's like, Jimmy, you're here with us. And, and I get the text and I see that. And then, and I just felt like, okay, all right, they know that I want to be there. And I just felt really, really good. Put me in a good mood. Billy then sends me a video where he had everybody say hello. Oh, I did post that out, and you guys caught that. And it just, I mean, for me, and then I got another text and another text. I got a couple of emails from people that were in the audience, taking pictures of the big screen, going, Jimmy, we love you, and can't wait wait until you're here next year. But this is going on right now, and it's great, and thank you. And it just made me feel great. And that was leading up to the party. I had a grilling, and so all of this happened Saturday before the party, and I'm preparing and cooking and doing my things. And it was a grilling, sky watching, dinner party all night Saturday. I had Whitley Strieber over. I had Jordan Ziff here. He brought his bass player with him, Robbie Creasy, really cool dude, by the way. David Palmer was here, and his friend Samantha. Lisa Frith was here. Gerald and Sarah Rhodes were here. And, of course, Brad and Michelle Harris. And it was just an amazing night. It was great food. It was amazing conversation. And, yes, we did some sky watching. Started at 4 p.m., in the afternoon, and it went until 3:30 in the morning. And I'm going to tell you right now, at 3:30 in the morning, none of us wanted it to end. The sun was getting ready to come up, and I was like, man, we gotta wrap this thing. So, but anyway, I know what you're asking. Did you guys see anything? And we did. Now, for Jordan and his bass player, Robbie, and Samantha, they had never done a sky watch before. And so I was hoping, and it did not disappoint. We saw some amazing things. And one of the cool things, so my night vision stopped working. I changed the batteries. I'm cleaning the contacts. I'm panicking, won't turn on. And I'm standing out there, and then I see, there's a couple of pairs of night vision. Lisa had hers. Lisa goes, we're using yours, Jimmy. Everything that we've been saying. I said, what? Yeah, they work just fine. It's like, give me those. And they were working. Still are. I don't know what happened. But anyway, I didn't have my night vision. They were sitting on the table, allegedly. They weren't. They were over here being used by somebody else. But I'm talking with David Palmer. I'm standing. He's sitting, and Samantha's here. Lisa Frith is here. And I'm standing talking to them. They're looking at the sky. They're looking past me. And at that moment, I don't know what, but something out of the corner of my eye flashed, and I looked, and it was right next to another star, but this was bright, but it lit up in front of everybody. I looked, we all looked, it lit up the sky, burp, stayed there for a second, and then took off to the north. And it lasted for about 3 seconds, maybe 4, which was an eternity for us. But again, it went whoop, and we're all looking. It's right next to another star, and then it took off, and it faded out in seconds. Now, for everybody there, and especially, Sarah and Samantha and Robbie and Jordan, they had never experienced a sky watch before. And to have that light up like that, and for me to catch it out of the corner of my eye and then look and get everybody to go, whoa, and then have it move and fade out. Crazy town. Absolutely crazy town. There was movement pretty much going on all night. But that was Class A. That was Class A. Now, I want to back up. Early on in the night, so we're prepping, and we had kebabs and Mediterranean salad. We had pasta salad. We had rice, fresh baked bread. That was a dinner spread, plus a bunch of different desserts. But all of these kebabs, steak and chicken kebabs, had to get made. They were marinating. And so Whitley, Jordan, Sarah, and myself, I was kind of the instructor, went into a production line. And boop, 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 boop. Everybody had, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this gear. This is what we do it. We alternate. And we got this production line going. And it was like the funnest thing ever. And I'm just going to say that food tastes better when friends are there putting it all together. And it was an incredible night. It was smoking. It was a great night. Great sky watch. Amazing fun. Amazing conversation. I would just want to thank everybody for coming by and making that happen. So yesterday worked all day. Today, on Egypt and everything else. But coming off of a great night on Saturday, just set the mood for the week. So there you go. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, my guest is me. We are going to be doing the Egyptian pyramids tonight. What do I know? What have I learned? What do I think? All of that and much more throughout the night tonight. And if you do have any questions, I'll try to get to them. You can post them up in the sandbox at #if2b. And I think this is going to stir some conversation. I hope it does. And also in the chat room over on YouTube. With that, I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to come straight back and get to it. Tonight, the Egyptian pyramids. All that and much more. All right. Tomorrow night, Robert Grant is with us. Wednesday night, Ralph Blumenthal. And then, of course, Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer and UNX networks. Race Hobbs. I'll be right back with me right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UNXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UNXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UNX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, the very special guest is me. I don't do this often. And tonight, we are doing the Egyptian pyramids. And we're not just doing Giza. We're going to be talking about everything, but through another lens. And the presentation tonight is going to be a bit different. Now, I have interviewed hundreds of researchers and those that have spent a lot of time on the temples and Egyptian megalithic sites, and of course the pyramids and different theories. And so there's that part. And I have done my own independent research and investigations into all of the temple complex sites and, of course, the history of Egypt and the pyramids themselves. And each one of those little expeditions of research takes you into other areas. And the more that I dive into this, the more shocked I am moving forward about a few different things. One of them, as my brain takes off into all of this, I am surprised, and not surprised, but I am surprised that some things that are glaring are avoided by Egyptologists. And also, they don't want to talk about it, and I'm going to do that tonight. But other researchers, when they are focused on their, and I get it, they're focused on their thing, and the, you know, you have blinders on, and sometimes you just don't expand out. I have gone into other directions with this, and I have always been a black and white guy that loves documentaries based on fact, and I love history. I love books that are nonfiction, and it's just the way my brain works. And so when I see something or am interested in things, I think about it, how was that built? I don't care if it's a car, pair of roller skates, right? Microwave oven, a tool, whatever. It just doesn't matter. How are things made and the industrial design? I just picked this up. This is a Bluetooth switch that turns things on and off via Bluetooth. You can program it to do just about anything. But cool design. Who made it? Who designed it? What about the circuitry on the inside of it? I think about those. It just doesn't matter, right? And so when you take the way that I think and you apply it to the ancient Egyptians and the pyramids, I look at what's out front, but then I think about the other things, how it was done. Not the esoteric. I go there, but just the basics, and answer these questions for me because I find it very, very strange. So one of the things I'm going to start here, and I'm going to come back to this point over and over again as I go through this presentation, and I want you to think about the two things that I am going to point out now. Okay, now if we just stay with the facts, let's go with this. Giza, allegedly, I'm not going to say that too often tonight, but I'm going to say it here at the front. Allegedly built around 2650 BC. That number, depending on what piece of historical document you want to go and look at, can change plus or minus 20 or 30 years. 2700 BC and go down to 2650. In some places, it's 2600. In a general sense, let's just start with 2650 BC. Okay, this is glaring point number one, and then I'll get to some other stuff. What they don't tell you is that the Great Pyramid and Khafre and Khufu, the two in the middle, the two big ones, which are basically the exact same size, were built at the same time. Now, they will tell you all the time about the Great Pyramid and that it was built over a 20-year period, right? It's built over a 20-year period. Well, here's the deal. And let's take a look at this here. They'll talk to you about the Great Pyramid right here. It was built over a 20-year period by 20,000 workers. They used to call them slaves. They don't now. They say it was workers. 20,000 workers, 2.5 million blocks that were cut and built over, and that it's a tomb for Khufu over a 20-year period. What they neglect, because that's an astonishing thing, and when you look at the size of the pyramid, and you start to think about this, 2.5 million stones, well, and you do the math over a 20-year period, yes, there was a stone that was laid at the pyramid approximately every 1 to 2 minutes for 20 years. But what they don't tell you is at the same time, they built this pyramid at the same time. So it's not 2.5 million stones. It's 5 million. It's not 20,000 workers. It's 40,000. Right? The Great Pyramid weighs, it's like 7.5 million tons. We're talking about 15 million tons. And everything else was doubled. So if you have 20,000 workers, no, you're feeding 40,000. Your housing, 40,000. Your clothing, 40,000. And the support structure that is there. They don't speak about this. And I'll present some other stuff here in just a second so you can take another look at this. But when you start here, just with that, you have to scratch your head and go, wait a minute. It wasn't one pyramid that was built in 20 years. It was two at the same time. And that is something that is difficult for historians and Egyptologists to go, and they try to answer those questions with 20,000 and 2.5 million stones. But when you have to start answering questions about, 40,000 people and 5 million stones, and how did this get done? Now it gets difficult. But it's just simply not just that. And that's rough enough right there. This is what they had to do. At the same time, okay, they didn't just build the pyramid. They had to, and I want you to look at this picture. This was a hill. Okay? It was a hill. They had to level off a hilltop. Had to level it off. The size of, you ready? 13 soccer fields. Perfectly level and squared off to north, south, east, and west. And that's just to prep for the Great Pyramid. But that's not the case. They had to do two. So they leveled off the hilltop for 24 soccer fields. Perfectly level, squared to north, south, east, and west. Okay? Now let's back up. On top of this leveled off area, they covered that foundation, are you ready? With 24 soccer fields of perfectly carved limestone blocks, each over 4 feet tall and weighing more than a car. All of that after leveling off this hilltop for 2 pyramids. They had to level out those stones. They had to smooth those stones. And again, square them to the world. You have to ask yourself, how did they get that done? It's at 2650 BC, right? No wheel. I mean, these facts have been stated over and over again, but we're talking about a ginormous amount of work. Flattening off a hill of bedrock. Then, after that was done, they dug tunnels. They dug tunnels down through the bedrock that were perfectly square, perfectly straight, and perfectly angled, over 300 feet long. They haven't started the building of the pyramids yet. Now, we have to just stop and think about this for a second. So it's 2.5 million stone blocks times 2. Well, then you got Menkaure. So what? Times 3. I told you the Great Pyramid weighs in at 5,750 tons times 2. The pressure on this, and to be able to, this hilltop, to prep, to level off and square, and then bring in limestone blocks to build this foundation is incredible. But how did they do it with 40,000 people? Now, this is point number 2. And I don't get it, and nobody wants to talk about it, but I will, and we're going to do it right now. All right? I want you to look at this graph. And this graph states one of the, and you can go and research this all that you want. Okay? All right. Oh, wait a minute here. Let me stop that for a second. My bad. I thought I could overlay, but doesn't matter. Here we go. Now, 40,000 workers. 40,000 workers at 2650 BC. This is the population of Egypt. This is 2800 BC. There was about 200,000 people living in the entire country. This is 2400 BC. This is 2650 right here in the middle. So you're looking at about 300,000 people in the entire country. Upper and Lower Egypt, which spanned 700 miles or more. But if you go from Aswan up to Cairo and Giza, that's a 500-mile stretch with the population spread out. 300,000 people in the entire country in Egypt. And depending on where you research, that number can go up as high as 500,000. And it can go lower than 300,000. But that's not much. And the population of Egypt didn't do its dramatic increase until, and you can see right here, around 1500 BC. There was a lot of reasons for that. Invasions, other countries came in and so forth. But Egyptians themselves in ancient Egypt, in the 4th and 5th dynasties, and 6th dynasties, we're talking about, and you can see there's something happened here where the population dropped dramatically, but 300,000 people. So let's just base it on that. 300,000. And if we go to just playing this with the numbers game, at 2650 BC, and you've got 300,000 people in the entire country, and we're just talking about Giza now, and 40,000 were there. 40,000. So let's take the number 300,000 and think about that for a second. Okay, so you can cut it in half, men and women. So now you got 150,000. Out of the 150,000 male population, how many were children under the age of 5 that can't lift a couple of tons of blocks? All right. So take that out. 20,000, 30,000. I don't know. How about too old to lift a block? All right. And I'm talking about in the entire country. So let's take that out. So what do we have left over? 50,000 men? 50,000? Are we talking, and this is a shocking number to me, that every single man in Egypt between the ages of 20 and 40, every single one was building a pyramid, that there was nobody left. Nobody left to farm the fields, right? Nobody left to guard the borders. No military, nothing. Nobody. No scribes, no. Nothing. It's a difficult thing for them to talk about. And I'm just talking about Giza and 2 pyramids. They don't address the rest of this. Now, at 2800 BC, you can see here, it's about 250,000 people in the entire country. That means with the construction of all of the pyramids that allegedly preceded the Great Pyramid, let's go with Khafre and Khufu because they were built at the same time. All of those other pyramids were built back to back to back to back to back. Most of them were nearly as big as Khufu and Khafre. weren't small. These were big complexes. And now if we continue this mindset of the way that I'm presenting this, if that's the case, then what about trade? What about imports, exports? What about the ports? What about the ships? What about income? What about the collecting of taxes? What about all of this? That if every able-bodied man in the country was working on the pyramids, where did they get the money? Where did they get the resources for to do this construction? And right now, I'm just talking about 2 pyramids. So now that I've laid this part out, and we're going to go back to this point many times tonight, now let's take a look at a couple of other things, because 2650 BC, where we have the Great Pyramid, and we have Khufu and Khafre. Well, there was a whole nother situation that was going on at the same time. And if we back up here and we look at a couple of things, I want you to look at some dates. Okay, remember 2650 BC, right? 2650 BC. So if that's the case, which is what Egyptologists want to tell us, we have a difficult thing to swallow, which is this. Let's take a look here. This is Dozier. Okay? It's at Saqqara. It's big. It's huge. But that's not what's important. What's important is this date. Constructed 2670 to 2650 BC. At the same time as the Great Pyramid, the same time as Khafre. Now, let's say they overlapped. Okay, but that doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, you can go to any data source and you're going to get the same series of numbers. Now, we know that the pyramid was built. We can see it. This has got the most complex, it's got kilometers of tunnels. The temple complex that is outside of this is ginormous. It's huge. It's not small. And this took a long time to build and to design. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the Red Pyramid. The Red Pyramid. It's 300 feet tall, right? It's got a grand gallery. It's amazing. But look, constructed in the 4th dynasty. That's Khafre and Khufu, 2650 BC. Who built that? Where were the 20,000 workers? Where did that come from? But wait, there's more. Now, and what is incredible about this is the Ben Pyramid, which a lot of theories behind it. I'm not going to get into that, but I will say this: it is bleeping big, and they have chosen to date this 2600 BC, just a mere 50 years before Giza. The logistics, the amount of people you have to clothe, feed, and everything else that you would have to do with the Great Pyramid, Khufu, the Giza complex, right? You have the Great Sphinx. I'm not going into alternative history here. I'm just basing everything on the facts that they want us to absorb. These 5 pyramids, and I'm not talking about the other stuff that was built at the same time. We can certainly circle back to that, but I'm talking about the pyramids of Egypt. So over a 50-year period, every man in the country allegedly built everything at the same time. So it is no longer 2.5 million stones. It's everything lumped together at the same time. Is it that over four generations of people, of men, going from site to site to site to site and never doing anything else in their lives, nothing else to support the country, nothing else to bring in taxes, nobody protecting the borders, no standing military, nobody farming fields, nothing. There were no trade, no boats, no nothing. Everybody all the time was building the pyramids. And it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. They didn't have the population to support it. Now, before we go and get into strange things here and suggest something else, let's just focus on the facts, on how they want us to digest this. And so with me, as I am doing this research and looking, and I just go back, wait a minute. 2650 BC, and you flip the page. This was built at 26, and so was this, and so was it wasn't one pyramid. It was two, it was three, it was four, it was five. And everything that goes along with it, the temple complexes, the canals, there were tomb complexes outside of each one of these. Huge logistical nightmares all going on at the same time. So either the population of Egypt was 3 or 4 million, which it wasn't, or it wasn't built in the timeline that they say it was, or B, maybe somebody else was assisting. I don't know. I can only look at the numbers and how all of this starts to fit together. And it gets more whack than that. But these are the 2 or 3 basic things that I want you to think about as we go through this evening. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it is the Pyramids of Egypt. I am the host of this show. I'm the Game Changer and UNX Network's Ray Hobbs. Tonight, our special guest is me. More of me when we come back after this break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX DB, VX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campabasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film. Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONsymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONsymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, Brain Peak 9. Brain Peak 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right now, for a limited time, if you use the discount code FADER, that's right, FADER, just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. help improve your brain function. Go to brainpeak9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fader Knots. That's brainpeak9.com, discount code FADER, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hello, I'm Katina, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church, The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, and I am the guest tonight. The special guest is me. Tonight, I'm talking about the pyramids of Egypt. Got a really cool little multimedia presentation put together here. If you have any questions, you can post it up here in the chat room, which I haven't had active yet, but I've got it active now. Okay, so it's up. Any questions, post it there. You can also hit Twitter and the Sandbox hashtag F2B. And the reason why I'm getting through this show tonight, and I am so focused, and I'm remembering everything that I have studied over the last 50 years about Egypt, Brain Peak 9. Amazing. And you need to check this out. So right below, click on the link. And you can do that. You can go over to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code FADER. You get a 2-month supply for $49.95 right now. Brain Peak 9. Absolutely amazing. 2 a day. That's all you got to do. Brain Peak 9. All right. So what have we learned so far? The numbers don't add up. The population of Egypt does not support what Egyptologists and historians have been trying to feed us over the years. It simply doesn't work. It's a numbers game. It just doesn't work. The population of Egypt from 3000 BC to 2500 BC was around 300,000 people. 300,000. And they had all of these crazy construction sites apparently going on at the same time. So it wasn't 20,000 people at one site. It must have been 20,000 at all of them at the same time. And I don't get it, but I'm going to keep coming back to this number. It's important because at 3000 BC, when Mene, Narmer, united Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt is in the south, and that's because the Nile River runs in the wrong direction. And Lower Egypt is Giza, is Cairo. So he united the two fronts into one country at 3000 BC. But at 3000 BC, apparently, while the rest of the world was running around in animal skins and foraging for seeds in the dirt and trying to figure out how to make a fire, the rest of the world in the Stone Age, we are expected to believe that Egypt had everything figured out overnight, that they went from, history wants us to believe that they went from wandering tribes in the desert to suddenly, in a 200-year period, 200 years, from 3000 BC to 2800 BC, 2750 BC, to suddenly building this, right? They built this. They built this. They built this. In a 250-year period. It just doesn't make any sense. In 250 years, they went from wearing animal skins, the country wasn't united, to suddenly having the skills and the technology to go from roving tribes in the desert to building this. It just doesn't make any sense. And they built this, and this in 50 years. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So now, again, to say, what have we learned? They won, leveled in Giza, leveled off the hilltop, the size of 24 soccer fields, perfectly level to this day, and squared north, south, east, and west. They covered that foundation with 24 soccer fields, perfectly carved limestone blocks, 4 feet thick, each one weighing as much as a car. And then they leveled all of that off, completely level, perfect, smoothed it out, and again, squared it to the world. They dug those tunnels. I still, the tunnels that go to the underground chamber underneath the Great Pyramid is one of the greatest engineering feats in the history of everything. And allegedly, it was done by Stone Age man, right? Bronze tools, no steel, nothing. A perfectly square, perfectly straight tunnel, perfectly angled, 300 feet deep. That's crazy. And again, one pyramid, 2.5 million stone blocks. At Giza, they built 2 at the same time. The Red Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid, the Step Pyramid, all at the same time. So it's not 2.5 million stone blocks. It's times 2. It's times 3. It's times 4. It's times 5. Each one of these pyramids, weighing as much as almost 6 million tons, and to keep it level and to keep it straight. And then we get to point number 5. And I think about this, and if you're going to take this to the next level of crazy town and say to yourself, what could be next? Well, they always talk about these 4 sides of the Great Pyramid. It's got 4 sides, 53.5 degrees, and it's perfect. It's pi. They figured out pi. They used pi before the Greeks, 2,000 years later. Okay, all right. But this is what they don't tell you. They don't tell you that the Great Pyramid had 8 sides. Not 4, 8. I want you to take a close look. And this wasn't discovered until an airplane flew over at the equinox and photographed. It was a British plane, surveyor, photographed the Great Pyramid. They developed everything. Well, wait a minute. It's not 4 sides. It's 8. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I want you to take a close look at this photograph, and you can only see it with a shadow. So there's a line that goes right here. You can see it here. You can see it here. And here at the base, it's indented. It's indented. This is not a straight line going across. This is not a straight line. This is not a straight line. This is not a straight line. These are all individual triangles. It's an 8-sided pyramid built by Stone Age man from the desert. They don't tell you that. It's got 8 sides. Now, you have to ask yourself a couple of things. Why would they do this? Well, one of the theories that I tend to agree with, by the way, is that this virtually makes the Great Pyramid earthquake-proof. Okay, so you have an inconsistent side. You don't have 4 sides. You have 8, and it makes it structurally sound. And certainly that makes a lot of sense considering here it is 5,000 years later, and all of these pyramids are still standing. But it's one of the most shocking things. And again, although that this is admitted to at this point, you can't deny that it has 8 sides, but it's nothing that they talk about out loud, because you have to ask yourself, how did they do it? How is this possible? On top of everything else that I have just laid out, then we have this. Now, one of the, I want you to take a look at this here. Here it is laid out, and you can see it clearly. The 8 sides and the indentations along the base, right with the lines that are there. Again, they don't want to talk about this, and I think these are important things to put out front. We keep going back to the amount of people and the amount of time and the way that, and they just want to talk about one pyramid. We have to talk about all of them, and how is it possible, right? Yeah, exactly. How is this? Hold on. I'm just going to pop this up. John Slaymaker. It is, it's impossible. And so if we go back to 3000 BC, when everybody was starting to, and I keep talking about the population, started to migrate towards the Nile, you know, and we're talking about fresh water and crops and things, and it's a little bit more hospitable there, and probably some greenery and some shrubbery and the things that you don't have in the desert. These are roving tribes that are coming together. And one of the aspects to this that I want to show everybody is that in the end, they want to say that this is what was the result after, and I'm just blown away by this. Now, just take a look. Oh man, I just did it again. I keep closing it. It's okay. I got it. Here it is. That happened at 2650 BC. Now, it's not just the pyramids, but it's the complexes that were built around it. It was the canal. It was the temple. It was this canal here that was there to bring in the boats that had all of the stones that were quarried. I haven't brought up Aswan yet, and we're going to get to that in a second. But when they show these illustrations, and you see this all the time, you know what you don't see here? You don't see 8 sides. Perfectly smooth. Now, maybe they were perfectly smooth. Now, but we know what is underneath that. Underneath that is an 8-sided pyramid. And so if you are going to accept what Egyptologists are going to tell you, that these were mirrored, finished, white granite encased temple complexes, tombs, then that means every single stone, 450 feet high, had to have been custom cut and leveled for a smooth face over a side that has an indentation in it. And you have to give the illusion of something flat. That is like the most absurd suggestion here, that they had that type of technology back then. I'm talking about Stone Age men, their version of this. I think something else went on. But if we keep going with this, that glass-like smooth mirrored finish that was visible forever all around Egypt to show what the pharaohs meant and that they would gleam underneath the sun. They're not telling you that underneath that is an 8-sided pyramid and what had to have been done to make that a smooth mirrored finish. Otherwise, this would have 8 sides on it and it wouldn't be smooth. But they don't want to discuss that. And I keep going back to why. What's the point here? Why aren't we changing these illustrations to show something else? Or if you're going to tell me that this was a smooth-sided pyramid, then how did they cut those stones to make it flat when they had to meet in the middle? Think about that for a second. And in today's construction and today's instruction techniques, how you would convince an engineering firm to complete a feat like that, to build an 8-sided pyramid, 450 feet tall, make it point directly due north. It's got to be level and last forever. You're going to build it with 2.5 million stones. You're going to build it 8 sides, not 4, and then you're going to encase it with limestone that is going to be perfectly flat, and you're going to hide that 8 sides. Now, does that make any sense? It simply doesn't. And I'll go back. Who did it? They didn't have a population to do this. It's pretty incredible. Okay, so that being said, where do we go next with this? Now, if we look at a map of ancient Egypt, and I'm going to pull that up now. If we pull up a map of ancient Egypt before I go to the next stage of this, and we look at this, this is ancient Egypt. All right, this is Giza right here. And these are the temple complexes that were built over many years. There's Luxor right here. Okay, let's go down. That's Aswan. That's Cairo. This is where the granite came from. So somehow they got granite blocks, some of them weighing 100 tons each, either up the Nile on a boat somehow, and I don't know of boats that were that big at 2650 BC in Egypt or anywhere else in the world that wouldn't sink with a 100-ton block in it, or they dragged it through the desert over the sand up to Giza. All right? Now, when we talk about these granite blocks, I just told you about the 8 sides. Okay? I talked about the encasing stones that were allegedly flat and mirror-like and smooth on the outside of an 8-sided pyramid. Okay? Talked about that. What's underneath those 8 sides is this. Now, this is the original photograph that was taken when this was discovered. These are Persians that have gone in and let me hide this comment that I have here. I'm sorry about that. Where is it? Where do I find? I can't even figure out how to hide what I did. Where is? That's from John. Okay, that's. Hey, John, I can't see how to hide your comment that has been up here. I get too many things happening at the same time. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that up there, but it's hiding part of the comment. Just stay with me. Okay, so this is when the entrance, which is here. This is the entrance to the Grand Gallery on the Great Pyramid. Okay, these are granite blocks. It's not sandstone, limestone. So here they are posing. Now let's go to this shot again from ancient original photographs. So there it is. This is underneath the 2.5 million stone blocks. This is the entrance that they use today to get into the Great Pyramid. They blasted through this and eventually connected up to the tunnel. All right, but this is underneath. Let's go to the next shot. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's talk about granite. Because when we are dealing with these entrance supporting stones on the roof, which are here, red granite, rose granite, again, here, just so you can see, right? And then we get to the King's Chamber. These granite blocks, which the rose granite, which obviously make up the King's Chamber, all of it, continued up to these relieving chambers that we just had Scott Creighton on the show, and we've talked about this many times. But these are rows. This is not one single block. This goes back 10 or 15 blocks in a row to make a roof. And then they brought in another set of blocks that went on the top of that. And they brought in another row of blocks, each one of these weighing 100 tons. 100 tons. And up to the top. Now, let's back up and look at this. So knowing that we have these 5 relieving chambers with rows of 100-ton blocks right here, and the entire King's Chamber made out of rose granite, how did these blocks, this is 450 feet tall, so this is now 200 to 250 feet off of the ground, how did they get these 100-ton stones from the ground to here? I'm not talking about Aswan. How did they get it 500 miles? So they got it to the site of Giza. We know that because the stones are there. But how did they get it from here to here? Now, if we look at modern cranes today, which I'm going to show you now, this is the largest crane in the world. It's called Big Carl. Big Carl, there's only one, is the biggest land-based crane on the planet. It's capable of lifting 5,000 tons at a radius of 40 meters. Okay? 250 meters tall in its tallest configuration. Now, it would certainly get the job done, right? But this crane is supported by 52, you can see him on the other side right here, 52 counterweight containers weighing 100 tons each. It's powered by 12 engines. It runs on 96 individual wheels, which the Egyptians didn't have. It wasn't finished until 2019. This is the most modern technology that we have. And it could get the job done at the Great Pyramid, but there's only one. So to build the entire Great Pyramid with something like this, it would take several of these, and it wouldn't get done in 20 years. I've started to do the math. It was a waste of time. So that's where we're at. Did the Egyptians have this? No. Now, when we come back, they didn't have this. We're going to talk about this when we come back. They didn't even have this. This is a flatbed that you can have granite delivered to your house. Okay? All right? You know what it's capable of lifting? 1-ton blocks. That's it. And that's what's on the back of this truck. 1 ton, not 100. Now, we're going to come back and we're going to pick up where we're leaving off right now about the tonnage of stone that is inside of the Great Pyramid and how did they get it there? None of it makes any sense. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, I'm doing it all from A to Z. The pyramids of Egypt. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. It's a great night. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch, roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Badernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it's the pyramids of Egypt. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. And I've been upset about this because I just keep going back and going, wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense. You just go back, you look at the dates, you look at the numbers, and things just don't add up. And I'm just talking about the facts. And I want to tell everybody else something that been working on a guitar. It's over here on the bench over the last week, drilling, the smell of solder, wood, a Dremel, just working on this thing. And the bunker started to, and I was like, wait a minute. I've got my thunderstorm. And I'm doing everything I can to pollute this place, and I can't overcome this. It keeps taking over the work that I'm doing in there, and I've always got the smell of a thunderstorm going on in here, and it's always running. There's a 3-pack special on this right now, and I had a bunch of guests in here this weekend, and they all came in and said the same thing. Dude, let me check that out. And I said, this is what I've been using. And they see the workbench, they see all these tools, and I'm talking about tools, power tools and things, and they see what kind of work is going on, but it doesn't smell like a workbench in here. It smells like rain. It's amazing. Thunderstorm right now. Everything you need. When you click on the link, if you forget the promo code, which is there, just scroll down, click on my name. Everything is set up. They got a 3-pack special going. One for your kitchen, one for your living room, maybe one for your bedroom, another one for your car. Thunderstorm. It's USB, by the way. It's a USB cable. plugging into this. You can also plug it straight into your wall. I go USB because I move it around. There it goes. Thunderstorm. It's amazing. Okay. So I just gave you a sneak preview of this. Now, the deal is that's it's called the LiBear LTM 11200. It is the most powerful mobile crane ever built. Okay? But even that wouldn't get it done at the Great Pyramid. It can only reach 300 feet high. That's it. 100 meters, 300 feet high. It can handle the tonnage, but you got to have the counterweights, which you can see on the back of it. Look at the wheels and look what is involved here. And you could have 8, 10, 20 of those around the Great Pyramid, and it's only going to go 300 feet high. Could it lift the 100-ton red granite, rose granite stones to the King's Chamber? Yes, but it would stop there. And so let's discuss that. And this is what I find most amazing as we go through all of this. All right. Again, this is the stuff that they just don't want to talk about because they can't. So if we look at the construction here, now let's start at the ground level. I already mentioned they leveled the hill, right? Perfectly level. And it's square. It's north, south, east, west. And it is level. And then they dug a 300-foot tunnel down. And this is the entire 300-foot tunnel, perfectly square, perfectly angled, doesn't move. It is awesomely constructed. One of the greatest engineering feats in the history of man, all the way through to today. It's extraordinary. I don't know how they got it done, but they did. But here's the deal. Now, as you build the pyramid, they didn't build the pyramid from the top down. No, they built it from the ground up. So you've got layers of stone, each level that comes in and gets laid, right? As the start of this 2.5 million stone blocks. But this is what has to happen. This tunnel was already dug. And this is just the start of things. So as they are layering in each level of the Great Pyramid and starting to build up and somehow getting the stones up to each level, right? These tunnels have to be built around every one. You're not going to finish the Great Pyramid and start burrowing through it. You can't do it. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but let's continue. So layers are coming in. And you've got the Grand Gallery, you've got the Queen's Chamber, you've got the King's Chamber. All of this has to be considered. You are bringing in a layer of stone, and then you've got to build this tunnel as you go. The entrance. It doesn't make any sense. How is that done? You are laying out millions of stone blocks, each one of them weighing a ton. And then you have to go as this is laid out, and then you're going to cut into these stones to make the tunnels. Right? No writing system, no T-squares. You didn't have engineering firms laying this out. You didn't have computers laying this out. You did this one stone at a time and started building your tunnel network and chambers and rooms around as you're building up. Now, this is where, for me, it starts to just get a little bit out of control, as if everything else isn't crazy. Now, we get to the levels of the tunnel that goes up to the Grand Gallery and then over to the Queen's Chamber. All of these stones are being laid out for these tunnels and the network system as the pyramid is being built. And as it's being built, the Queen's Chamber is then formed, and then you start on the Grand Gallery. Again, each layer, each level perfectly level. Every layer of stone on the Great Pyramid and on Khufu is level. Perfect. You're going to come in and you're going to build all of these stones around and build the Queen's Chamber. And you're going to continue up, and now you are going to build the Grand Gallery. Again, one level at a time. The Grand Gallery today and the Queen's Chamber and everything else is perfect. It's perfect, and it's stepped. It's perfect. But the pyramid had to be built around this. As they completed things, one level row at a time, we now have the air shafts, the star shafts, whatever you want to call them. And there's 4. There's 2 on each side. One that comes out of one side of the Queen's Chamber, one that comes out of the Queen's Chamber hallway, one that comes out of the King's Chamber, and one that comes out of the other side of the Queen's Chamber. These shafts are 8 inches by 10 inches. They're this big, these air shafts. You're looking at them here, and if this was in proportion, this would be 10 feet. It's not. It would be a thin line drawn here. This air shaft, which is all 4 of them, are one takes a turn, by the way, but are essentially perfectly straight and exit out of the pyramid so you can look at different stars and constellations. But an 8-inch by 10-inch air shaft, star shaft, viewing shaft, whatever you want to call it, has to be built into the construction of the pyramid. It wasn't done after the pyramid was built. It was done during the construction of the pyramid. Again, I have to step back and go, how did they do this? How is it possible? Because you are there with thousands of workers lifting stones up into place, building. You have to get the stuff on the inside of the pyramid done too as well, laying out one level after another with the consideration of an air shaft this big that has to remain perfectly straight. Yeah, if you see through this and you're going to look at a star, and it's got to be aligned perfect to this star. You can't waver. It can't go 8 inches to one side or the other, because then you can't see through it. And you're doing this while you are laying out 2.5 million blocks. Now, if you take these shafts out of the equation, and you are going to just build the pyramid and build it up and build rooms. Okay, I've dealt with Lincoln logs. I suppose that could be done. I don't know how. The Grand Gallery, I don't know how, but it's bigger. But when you are dealing with air shafts that are this big, that have to remain perfectly straight through the construction of this over a 20-year period, no, I just don't know how they got it done, but they did. Again, going back, the Egyptologists don't want to discuss this. The answer is, well, they just got it done. How is it possible to keep the construction so perfect, layer after layer after layer after layer over a 20-year period, and have an air shaft built in through these rocks? Now, I will take it one step further. Nobody really knows what's on the inside of the Great Pyramid and how it was constructed. They haven't gone into there. There are some that would suggest that the stones that we see on the outside are there, but they used filler material on the inside, and it's just rubble, rocks, and sand that they didn't continue with blocks, and that is continuous. Okay, that's one theory that has been laid out there. That part, if we consider that, totally erodes any idea of how these air shafts were built, because you can't have those air shafts built in loose rubble and rock and garbage that they would have allegedly used. That is one theory that has been laid out there, and it's a good one, except for you can't consider how the air shafts are there and how they're built. We know because of Gatenbrink and what he did in 1994, 1995, and he went back and followed up his research. He had little robotic cars with cables on them, and not RC. They weren't radio controlled. They had cables that went through the air shafts. They were small enough to fit into the air shafts and were able to video and take pictures through the length of these air shafts. And we know that they are stone and that they are solid and they are straight. One isn't, by the way. They did take a turn that apparently had to move around something and then went back straight again. Very interesting with that. But we know that it's not rubble, at least around these shafts. So if rubble was used as filler for the Great Pyramid, this is a crazier thing. Remember, this is Stone Age man building this, that they would have had to have built in the rubble these shafts, custom, perfect, and straight to exit out of the Great Pyramid. Now, originally, and I want to stay on this for a second. Originally, they assumed that these were air shafts to allow air in, and maybe when it was hot, that some of the heat would leave the pyramid to keep these cool and also allow air to come in for the workers as they were building. That's not the case anymore. I think that everybody has accepted the fact that these point at stars at a very specific time back during this period, if they were built at 2650 BC. It's an unbelievable thought that these pyramids were built with level stones, and then at each obstacle point they had to build around it. And I think about that, right? And it's not 3D printed. This is done with bronze chisels and carving these air shafts that extend for hundreds of feet that are perfectly straight. It's extraordinary. Now, staying on this image, we know that the King's Chamber has the 5 relieving chambers above it. Allegedly, at this point, to relieve the stress of the weight of the Great Pyramid from the King's Chamber. But we don't have relieving chambers above the Queen's Chamber. We don't have a relieving chamber above the Grand Gallery. Now, why is that important? Well, if we look at this, it just makes common sense, and I'm going to drive this home, that there's more weight on the Grand Gallery, there's more weight on the Queen's Chamber than there is on the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber has got a third less weight. Look at its height. Right? Now, it doesn't make any sense. So what is the purpose of the relieving chambers? Is there something below the King's Chamber? There's something above the King's Chamber? We now know of the great void above the Grand Gallery, which I don't have in this illustration here. But we have that too as well. And we don't have relieving chambers above the Queen's Chamber and above the Grand Gallery and the subterranean chamber, which would take the greatest weight of everything of all, because the Great Pyramid is sitting on top of it completely. And we don't have the same situation down there. And again, I just find that interesting, but nobody wants to talk about something like that, which I think is one of the most important facts of all. Why have the relieving chambers above the King's Chamber that wouldn't need it as much as the Queen's Chamber or the Grand Gallery? By the way, we call it the Queen's Chamber. We don't know if a queen was ever in there. That's just a name that was given to it. And we don't know the purpose of the subterranean chamber yet as well. again, very important points that need to be brought up. I want to get to this this next set of images that I have, and this one is one of the most important. And this was done in around 1810, and this is a drawing of the Giza Plateau. As you can see clearly, there is a fourth pyramid here. And through the many ancient texts and historians throughout history have talked about 4 pyramids on the Giza Plateau, and that the fourth pyramid was black. And you can see it here. It's black, and it's in the background. We don't know. But apparently, 200 years ago, there was a fourth pyramid here. And you're not going to make this kind of mistake when you are documenting the layout of the Giza Plateau. If there were 3 pyramids there and then the smaller family pyramids that surround the 3, that's one thing. But here you can clearly see 4 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. And so many historians have said, you know, it's amazing. We've got Pyramid 1, we've got Pyramid 2, we've got Pyramid, and we got this other black pyramid here too as well. What happened to it, and where is it, and how did it just disappear in 200 years? I don't know, but I keep going back to this illustration and others about the fourth pyramid on the Giza Plateau. The other thing that I want to take a minute to mention here is that I want to go back to this. There has been a lot of talk over the years about a cave system and tunnels underneath the Great Pyramid. And this has been something that has been denied until recently. But out here, okay, this is Cairo, but if you come out west and into this corner of the Giza Plateau, this is a bird tomb. And the British, when they were there in right at the turn of the century between 17 and 1800, around 1810, 1813, they were mapping all of this out. So they had surveyors and were taking great care to look at everything. And what they found in 1813, right here, in the bird tombs, was a tunnel. And it was clearly represented on the surveyor maps. And the tunnel went all the way down and underneath the Great Pyramid. And it was big and took up this entire area. What was down there? How did they find the entrance to it? Don't know. But it was certainly documented. Then in the 2000s, a couple of expeditions were set out to find this entrance in the bird tomb to this cave complex. And they eventually found it. And they came back a year later and went back to the entrance and actually went in with video cameras. And they got about halfway to the Great Pyramid, and it took quite a few days, and it was nasty. But what they did find is what everybody denied, that there wasn't a cave system underneath the Great Pyramid, and clearly it was there. And the entrance to the cave system was in the surveyor maps by the British in 1813. Right now, so going back, and the bird tomb areas is pretty big. So which bird tomb, which one, and these alcoves, but they eventually found it, and it was pretty much exactly where it was mapped out by the British. Zahi Hawass, who said that no, this didn't exist. Once the film was released of these 3 explorers going down and into, who have been on Fade to Black, into this. Then he set out to do his own expedition, and he went in with the film crew and went a lot further, and eventually out and underneath the Great Pyramid. Again, how was this done by primitive man at 3000 BC? And we don't know the actual dating of Giza yet, but the idea that tribes from the desert came into Egypt, wound up at Giza at 2700 BC, and built this photograph that you are looking at here. The entire complex, the city part of not Cairo, the city that had to have been built for the workers, and all of these ancient temple complexes that surround Giza, that this happened virtually just overnight. And one of them being the cave complex and entrance that was built into the bird tombs right here in Giza. I just find that extraordinary. I've got a lot more to talk about. We're going to do this when we come back after this short break. Tonight, my guest is me. I am talking about the pyramids of Egypt. Things to me just don't add up. I haven't gotten to, by the way, an alien connection, another connection. I haven't gotten to any of that yet. I'm just trying to stick with the facts and the numbers. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I'm so happy that I'm finally getting to do this presentation tonight. Much more when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX DB, VX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campobasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film. Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, I am discussing the pyramids of Egypt, and I've been walking you through methodically, step-by-step numbers and logistics and how things just don't add up. We have been told over and over again about the series of pyramids, and I haven't even gotten into the temple sites, a series of pyramids that are incredible. The Red Pyramid, Dozier, Sneferu's pyramid, de Jeffrey, and, of course, the Great Pyramid, Khafre and Khufu, the two on the Giza complex. And we're showing these images all the time. I'm going to be going to Egypt in October. I'm going to be visiting each one of these sites. And I am going to look at them with the same eyes that I am presenting to you tonight. Because if we look at what history says, Egypt was formed in 3000 BC by Mene or Narmer, or whichever name you want to give to that king. That was at 3000 BC. The population for the next 500 years was under 300,000 people in the entire country. And the numbers that are only given to us are that the Great Pyramid was built over 20 years by 20,000 people. 2.5 million stones were cut and placed every 2 minutes to build the Great Pyramid. What they don't tell you is that Khafre, the pyramid sitting next to it, was built at the same time. And they also don't want to discuss this, that from 3000 BC to Giza, that this happened. This. Now, if we look at each one of these numbers, we go to any historical document, you're going to read the same thing. Dozier, 2670 BCE. There's his reign. Snefuru, 2612 to 2589. That pyramid that was built in Dashur is 341 feet tall. He built another pyramid at Meidum, and that pyramid fell down. it would have been 301 feet tall. Okay? Khufu, 2589 to 2566 at Giza, 481 feet tall. Dejefre at Abu Rawash, all right, it's 197 feet tall, built at the same time. Khafre, Giza, right there, built at the same time, 448 feet tall. Now, all of these constructions were happening with the population that couldn't support it. It doesn't make any sense. And they are trying to tell us that happened with cranes and support, right? Ropes, wood. They didn't have any wood. Here's another. This is from Nat Geo. This is Nat Geo. Step Pyramid, built 2670 to 2650 BC, right? 2560 BC, the Great Pyramid. 2530 BC, Khafre, built at the same time. It's right here, right? And you look at this time after time, and it's one of the most overlooked aspects of this is that the entire male population of Egypt only did one thing: build pyramids. They went from one project to another. It doesn't make any sense. There wasn't 1 million people. There wasn't 2 million people in Egypt. It was only 300,000. And even if you stretch the numbers and you go to other resources for this, where it gets pushed up to 500,000, it still doesn't make any sense. We're talking about in the entire country, up and down the Nile, that there were no men anywhere in any town doing anything. It was kids and moms running Egypt. That's it. If you were a male between the ages of 20 and 40, you went off to work. Remember, life didn't last forever back then. So you have that aspect of it, right? And I've presented to you, this is oh man, this is from I pulled this from Encyclopedia Britannica just for grins. First stone pyramid built 2700 BC. 100 years later, 2600 BC, the pyramids of Giza built. These are the facts that they're trying to get us to buy into. It's fascinating to me, and I will continue to drive this home. This is another timetable from another encyclopedia resource. And here is the timeline, right? But I want you to look right here. And here's the dividing line. 2686 BC, right? The dynasties. The Old Kingdom, 2686 BC. Same date. And then everything happened. Dozier, the Great Pyramid, right? The introduction of the pyramid text. And all of this happened right here, all at the same time. The population of Egypt simply didn't support it. But then we get to the engineering. I talked about the 8 sides of the pyramid, and I certainly talked about the cranes in a modern sense, what we have today that could move this kind of tonnage around. When you see a crane building a skyscraper, and you see those with the offset weights on the back, 50 tons max. 50 tons. Those giant building Manhattan, 50 tons. Okay, that's it. It wasn't 100-ton anything. And you have to get to the shipyards around the world, those massive cranes. And the biggest one, by the way, that is now in Korea, that was built over in Europe, and they dismantled it and moved it to Korea, to a shipyard. It's a crane shaped like this. It's got a crane that goes across the top. It's massive. It's 250 feet tall. Now, it could work on a small pyramid, and this is a massive crane, but it wouldn't handle something that's 481 feet tall, 450 feet tall. So an engineering firm came in and started to apply some of the dynamics to this to answer what it would take in a modern sense to move 100-ton block up to the king's chamber. And I'm going to show you, this is what has been suggested by Egyptologists with the expertise of an engineering firm. So what I am showing you here, this is the facts. This has nothing to do with my frame of mind. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. These are wooden tracks that would go up the side of the Great Pyramid. And you can see there are 6. There are 2 on either side, and you have one main one in the middle. Okay? Down here at the bottom, I'm going to blow this up. That is your relieving chamber 100-ton block. Okay? Set on sleds and skids. They didn't have wheels, right? Okay? Now, and then what you're looking at here are thousands of feet of rope. On the outside here, where you've got these 2 tracks on the left, 2 tracks on the right, thousands of feet of rope. Here you have your single 100-ton block down at the bottom, and then you have offsetting the same amount of tonnage on one side in blocks and the same amount of tonnage on the other side in blocks. These ropes would go up to a series of pulleys at the top, intermediate rope stone station, right? And these are men here that would turn around and come down to the 100-ton stone block. And then the offsetting weights here, you would have to have more weight here than you do with the 100 tons at the bottom. And to read through this is pretty incredible, that this is what they had to do, one stone at a time. Now, with modern engineering and modern computers, we can map this out. And this is how it would get done. And this is the mathematics behind it. This is the engineering behind it to move a 100-ton block up 200 feet to where it needs to be laid in place at the Great Pyramid. 200 years after forging seeds in the desert, the Egyptians were able to engineer this. And this is what it would take. One stone at a time, 5 relieving chambers, 15 of these on each level going across, in each chamber 5 levels high. That's right. Now, let me show you this again now that I've just explained this straight through. The red lines are ropes, multiple ropes. They go up to the intermediate roll station, and that comes down to the offsetting weights that you would need. You would need double the weight on either side you have to get the stone to move up. These are workers on the sides that are pulling the rope down. You can see the arrow right here. So they're there pulling the rope down that is coming down and eventually guide this 100-ton block up, and you can see the arrows, right? Move it up to get it up 200 feet. And somebody thought this through, and this is how they did it. Not with sand ramps, rock ramps going up the side of the the Great Pyramid being pulled by workers on rollers and sleds and ropes. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people it would take to pull these blocks up. But this is how they are suggesting it would have had to have gotten done for those 100-ton stone blocks in the King's Chamber. Now, above the King's Chamber, if I want you to note, these are the offsetting weights. Okay? Now, in modern technology, that's the equivalent of this. Hang on. Oh, man, how did I goof this up? I did. Let me back up. The offsetting weights are these. And it's a simple question of weight of this. That's the offsetting weights right here. And that's what you need to lift something on this side. Pull it up. You see the cables? See them going across? You see that coming down? That's the same concept as what is being presented here 3,000 years ago. And I'm going to be vocal about this forever. It's a 100-ton block being lifted up. Absolutely incredible. So now I want to back up and say this a little bit of a recap about what have we learned. Okay. At 3000 BC, there was 300,000 people in the entire country of Europe. That somehow between living in the desert at 3000 BC, coming together as a collective in a 200-year period, 200 years later, 250 years later, suddenly they understood engineering. They understood math. They understood astronomy, justice, certainly religion, taxes. They understood all of this overnight. And again, while the rest of the world was wearing animal skins, they were able to level off a hilltop the size of 24 soccer fields, perfectly level, north, south, east, and west. They then took that hilltop and leveled that off with foundation stones, each one weighing as much as a car, turn around and re-leveled that and made it square to the world. Perfectly level, perfectly square, perfectly due north. Digging tunnels down 300 feet through the bedrock and then quarrying 5 million, not 2.5, 5 million stones at the same time just to build Khafre and Khufu. That's times 2, 5 million. And at the same time, there were 5 other projects going on, all equating to the same amount of manpower, the same amount of stone cutting, the same amount of construction techniques, the same amount of engineering, all at the same time. They didn't have the population to support it. It was an impossibility. It couldn't have been done. It just couldn't. Now, we have to then look at a couple of other ideas here, and I'll follow up more with more of this after the break. But we have to look at these had to have been spaced out. They couldn't have been done in the same 50-year period. It is logistically an impossibility. The numbers just don't support it. They don't. So if we go back and start to take a look at some of the things now that are supporting an alternative history here, it just makes more sense. Instead of having us be told that all of this was done at the same time, it was all done, that it must have been spaced out, and there must have been other assistance coming in from somewhere, and they also did it very easily. So if we back this up, and was it 3000 BC? Or are we talking about which relieves the stress of these concepts, that maybe these were spaced out by hundreds of years and maybe thousands of years? And is it the opposite? Were the Great Pyramid, Khafre and Khufu, were they actually built thousands of years before the other pyramids? And this is why I suggest this. And this is only because this is the data that is presented to us. If we look at one basic fact, that there isn't any hieroglyphics on the inside of Khafre and Khufu, it's non-existent. All of the other pyramid complexes built in Egypt had signage in it. And we certainly have the pyramid text and other temple complexes. We have other funeral setups. We have everything that is in the Valley of the Kings, where these tombs are adorned. You have the life of these pharaohs and queens and engineers and royalty and the family presented in the grandest fashion on the walls and the ceilings of all of these areas, except for Khafre and Khufu. Okay? And Khafre and Khufu were never repeated. So let's back this up. If Khafre and Khufu, I'm just suggesting this, were built thousands of years before the dynastic periods, and they were there, that maybe the Red Pyramid and Dozier and Maidum, that they were built trying to imitate Khafre and Khufu. Weren't successful, but they attempted to replicate those two pyramids. Now, that to me makes more sense, and it's easier to understand if we suggest it this way than that they built all of these at the same time with every single resource in the country and all of the income and all of the taxation and everything in the entire country, not only the manpower, but all of the royal treasury was spent on this, not on the military, not on social programs, and not on building streets and things. No, every single penny of the coffers of Egypt was spent during this 75-year period to build all of this. Or is it the opposite of that? That Khafre and Khufu were already there, and they were making attempts to duplicate that and were not successful in doing it. Now, that makes more sense to me than anything else that can be suggested here. Why? Well, we didn't have the population of Egypt. It just wasn't there for this entire construction period to have occurred. And I didn't get into any of the other temple complexes that were also being built at the same time, and certainly that followed. Okay? Now, if that is the case, what would support this? Well, we have the text from Plato, and we have the text from Edfu, and which would suggest an approximate 10,000 year time period of the history of Egypt. And it wasn't, from 3000 BC forward. And if we stop and we examine that and we take a look at what the Egyptians are trying to tell us and the information from Plato and Socrates and I just talked about Pythagoras, that were visiting Egypt 400 years at 400 BC, because it's this. If we look at the timetable, and this may be the most important thing that I'm going to suggest tonight, at 2700 BC, when all of this was going on, this was 2,000 years before ancient Greece got a foothold. 2,000 years. Rome didn't happen until between 600 BC and 400 BC. And at 600 BC, Rome was not Rome. Rome was mud huts. There wasn't any construction going on there. There wasn't any knowledge. And all of the history of Rome at that time is mythology. And that's it. It's folklore and Romulus and how Rome was formed. All of Egypt was happening 2,000 years before all of that when the pyramids were built. Greece and Athens and all of that wouldn't happen. The idea for it wouldn't happen for another 1,600 years. 1,600 years. So when we look at all of this in total, when Cleopatra, the last pharaoh in Egypt, when she committed suicide, she was Greek, number one, and number two, she was more in a relationship to us now than she was with the founders of Egypt at 3000 BC. 3,000 years had passed. 2,000 years have passed since then. Cleopatra is closer to us than the founders of Egypt 3,000 years before. So how do we understand a timetable like that? How do we know? We don't. We have to go to the ancient Egyptian text, certainly the King's List and Edfu, which suggest a 10,000-year timetable here, not year zero at 3000 BC. And that is something that we can feel pretty confident about, and something that is easier for us to understand and to digest than telling us something that is completely wrong, that doesn't support the historical data, like the population of Egypt and all of these construction events happening all at the same time. I am, and I'll discuss more of this when I come back off of the break, I am adamant about this one fact. And if I hear it again, when my ears are listening to the Great Pyramid was built over a 20-year period by 20,000 workers, 2.5 million stones placed every 2 minutes. This is something that this dogma is repeated over and over again when they don't tell you that that's not the case. They actually did this with 2 pyramids at the same time, and they didn't have a population to support it. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back and wrap all of this up. This is the pyramids of Egypt and the way my mind looks at it. And I know I'm right. This is Fade to Black. I know I'm right. I just wanted Egyptologists from Egypt to come on this show and answer these questions. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. He's so now. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, Brain Peak 9. Brain Peak 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right now, for a limited time, if you use the discount code FADER, that's right, FADER, just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. Help improve your brain function. Go to brainpeak9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fadernauts. That's brainpeak9.com. Discount code Fader. And the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX DB, VX.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unexmedia publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unexmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unexmedia.com.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, I finally, I've been prepping for this for a while. I know I've also skipped over a lot of things. I just didn't have enough time to get into all of it. But this is a 2.5 hour presentation, and I've got everything laid out for a documentary that's going to get done with animation and other things. But presenting this concept out to the world and getting this idea needs to be shouted out. It just has to. The population of Egypt didn't support any of this. And if we just look at the numbers that have been presented to us, it doesn't make any sense. And that's it. It needs to be presented in this way, supported with the other suggestions here, which is, yes, okay, look, there's 300,000 people in Egypt in the entire country, 20,000 on one pyramid, 20,000 on another. That's 40,000, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pyramids that were built. And I'll show you that in a second as I start to wrap all of this up. There wasn't enough people to do this. It wasn't. I'm not saying that aliens came in and built the pyramids. I'm saying that we have to look at other ideas here. Maybe aliens did. I'm not suggesting that either, but maybe this was spaced out. Maybe it wasn't done in the order that we have been told. Maybe we just don't understand. Maybe they do know and they're not telling us. Maybe the dogma has been presented over and over and over again that now the truth can't be revealed. I don't know. I don't. But it needs to be presented in a documentary and laid out there. Coupled with, where were we at 3000 BC? Now, I just told you that when we look at Mesopotamia and Egypt, and everybody wants to say everything started at 3000 BC, and then when we throw in the other concepts of this, where Greece and Rome, where the kickstart of democracy and philosophy, no, that stuff didn't happen then. And again, that was 2,000 years after the start of Egypt. 2,000 years. People need to understand this, and they don't get it. They need to be told this. And if we back this up to 3000 BC, where Egypt is formed at 3000 BC, that 200 years later, 200 years, tribes in the desert turn around and are building things like this. Bam. It doesn't make any sense. This picture here represents everything that I'm talking about right now to get this concept in your head. Every row of stones starting from the ground, every row of stones up to 481 feet in the air is level. Surveyors have gone with lasers, one stone at a time, all the way up the Great Pyramid, and every layer is level. Every one, every stone cut and placed to match the stone sitting next to it without making a mistake. Every level, every layer is level. Now, as if that concept isn't crazy enough, the reason why this photograph, to me, is so impressive is then you have that underneath. We're talking about, they are telling us this was Stone Age man that built this. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. You cannot go from living in the desert, nomadic tribes, to 250 years later, just suddenly everything clicks and you build that. I can't wrap my head around it. And it just doesn't make it. What they are trying to tell me doesn't make any sense. Look at that. And that is, when I started down this journey, when I had seen, this is many years ago, right? Many years ago. And I saw this picture here. And I just stopped and I thought to myself, wait a minute. Right. You look at this and you're like, that's what's underneath? That's what's underneath the outer layers of the Great Pyramid? That? Now, I understand the Grand Gallery, I guess, and I tend to accept it. But I was young, and I'm looking at this picture here, and I'm looking at the stones around it, and I'm thinking to myself, how does somebody that comes out of the desert has the concept of gabled 100-ton stones leaning on each other to support weight. The Romans, with their aqueducts and the building of arches, that didn't happen, man, for 2,500 years. This is 3000 BC, 2,500 years later. And this is what started my journey, this photograph right here. And just look at that. And nobody knew. They were walking around, again, walking around the pyramids, walking around Giza for thousands of years, not knowing what was underneath, not knowing about the entrance. The Persians came in, started blasting away and moving rock and trying to get to the inside of the Great Pyramid to see what was inside. But before that, it stood majestically, and nobody knew, right? They revealed it. And we start to put this timeline together, and where we are told that, you know, Stone Age man just did this, and they had no. I am going to continue to shout this to the world, and I'm going to take you to this next photograph here, and this is I want you to read it. Actually, this is part of a notebook. The entrance to the Great Pyramid. Okay, now you can go, and I'm going to post this up, and you can go and read the notes, and you can read what is here. All right. This goes up to the King's Chamber and 5 hollow chambers, and it goes through and describes this. And this picture was taken in, I have it here. It's 1840 is what it is. But here's the entrance here now to the King's Chamber, or to the Grand Gallery, that the Persians ended up going. And when you go and visit, that's where you go today. You enter here. But now take a look at that. And that's what was revealed to the world. And I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see how, if you want to tell me that all of these stones were laid and stuff by an ancient culture that was nomadic from the desert and started building this, that's one thing. But then you get to this, and that's what's underneath it. And that just shows me something different. And it wasn't simple. It wasn't easy. And when we take a look at, I showed you earlier some of the cranes. There isn't an engineering company in this world that can pull this off. And I don't know if it would take 100 years or the resources. I don't understand any of that. But we are told now through any book, any college class of world history, Egyptologists, anthropologists, and the history of man and the study of all of this, that the pyramids of Egypt were one after another done like this in 75 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the dating on all of this is part of the historical record. And then, so you see that part. And then there is this. I'm saving the best for last. And check this out. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pyramids covering 90 years. All of these pyramids are at least 200 feet tall. We know that 2 of them extend over 400 feet. That's 448 feet and 481 feet tall. Each one of these required the stones to be quarried. Each one of these required logistics. Each one of these required a city to be built outside of it to house the workers. All of these workers had to be clothed. They had to have a place to sleep. They all had to be fed. Each one of these workers had to have the tools to quarry, to shape. Each one of these pyramids required wood, rollers. Oh, by the way, back then, at 3000 BC, it was sand. There were no trees. There were palm trees, date trees, but there wasn't any wood. Any wood would had to have come in from Jerusalem and Israel and imported. You had to build the sleds. You had to build the different cranes. You had to have rope made for each one of these complexes. Every single one. And here are 9, covering a 90-year period. Now, if I back up on this and we take a look, this is Upper Egypt and the Nile. This barely touches Aswan. Here's Edfu here. We're talking about 300,000 people that live from the edge of the Mediterranean Sea down to Aswan. 300,000 people. That all of the men from that population spread out. This is just along the Nile. This isn't all of Egypt. That all of the manpower was used all at one time to build this. It doesn't make any sense. And if we do that one last breakdown, if you have 300,000 people in Egypt, 300,000, and we take that and we apply it to every man, woman, and child, and an age breakdown of who is who, then it would only make sense to take women out of the picture. And if we take women out of the picture, isn't that 50%? I would suggest that it is. It's 50%. And so here at 2650 BC, and the numbers here are about 300,000 people in all of Egypt. This is the large Egyptian empire in blue. So that's 300,000. You cut that in half, you take the women out, that's 150,000 men, males. And now we take out the children and the elderly, right? And is that a third and a third? Probably, right? So what does that leave? What is left out of that 150,000? 50,000 able-bodied men. And that's it. And that's what it would have taken for these construction projects. So, okay, let's say that was done. But I'm going to drive this home. If that is indeed the case, if these numbers are accurate, and if we are led to believe everything that history is telling us with the numbers, then all of Egypt had no men. There were no men in any other cities. There, the farming, the transportation, the logistics, trade, the ports, the importing and exporting of textiles and goods and grains and trade and all of that. There were no men doing it. I guess the women were doing it. I guess the children were doing it, because in all of Egypt, there were no men. And then if we take that, and this is just the numbers, then what about the military? Who was protecting the borders? Who was policing the streets? Who was doing all of this? And I just don't understand that. Because, and if we just go with the numbers and we just look at Khafre and Khufu, they were built at the same time. And if we are led to believe what Egyptians are telling us, the Egyptologists, is that the Great Pyramid was, once again, 20,000 people over a 20-year period. Well, that's not the case. There were 2 that were built at the same time, at the exact same time. And so those numbers are doubled. And then if we go backwards and forwards 10 or 20 years or 30 years off of Giza, I didn't even get to the Sphinx. Off of Giza, there were 9 other documented pyramid projects that were built at the same time. And if you go one step deeper, and I'm going to leave you with this, if you look at every single construction project between 2700 BC and 2600 BC, the number is about 75. 75 over a 100-year period. And I've already said it's the population couldn't support this, but there must have been zero money in the bank. $0 that every single dime, everything that was collected in taxes, everything that was absorbed in trade, all of the gold that was mined must have been sold. Every single penny was put into building these temples, and there was no money spent on anything else ever. That's it. And that the logistics don't support that. They simply don't support it. So what part of the story is true, and what do we need to believe? So when somebody comes at me and says, well, who built the Great Pyramid? I think that it was built thousands and thousands of years before, not because of any other reason than the numbers don't support it. And that they must have been built back when there was another civilization that was there. I don't know who, but it was not a pharaoh or a king from the dynastic periods that we know of, because there was nothing marking those 2 pyramids. And that all of those other pyramids built in that 100-year period were built in the likeness and trying to imitate those 2 pyramids at Giza. That's the only thing that makes sense. And that's what I have come to. Those are my conclusions after so many years of research and putting my time into this. I didn't get a chance to get to questions tonight, and I knew that I was going to run out of time tonight. And I've got so much information that I didn't get to tonight, but I'm going to figure out a way to get this into book form and finish up the documentary and get this done. But I think it's too important not to talk about. And here's the thing. And I'll leave everybody with this. Knowing what I have presented today and the concepts of philosophy and engineering and geometry and math and justice and everything that was completed in Egypt and was certainly there during this time period. I don't think there's any question about that. But all of this was handed down to Greece. Philosophy was given to Greece. It was established in Egypt 2,000 years before Plato was there. And Plato talks about this. But these concepts are important. And if we apply all of that to what came later in world history, then we start to understand more about what Egypt gave to the world and what the timetable was. But one thing is for sure, the population wasn't there in Egypt to support all of this construction, not during that time period. No, it just doesn't make sense. And the only thing for me and the conclusions that I have come to is that this is spread out more over time. There's no way that all of this happened at the same moment. It doesn't. And one last thing I'm going to leave you with. The markers in the calendar that historians, and I keep saying Egyptologists, but remember, this is dogma that they have been taught. A lot of this was established by the British in the early 1800s, and then has been passed down since then and repeated and becomes part of truth in the historical record. There's that part. And then, but the other markers are done with celestial events that have happened, and eclipses and different things, where they can put that into the historical record and establish a timeline. But there is no calendar there that can go back and absolutely establish days, weeks, months, years, decades, and millennia. It simply isn't the case. So when we go back to these hard numbers about 3000 BC, no, we don't know this as established fact. And when we try to put a timeline on certain things, it doesn't apply with our modern calendar. They're doing celestial events, and in some cases that are 500, 700, or 1,000 years apart, and then popping this down into the timeline. The timeline on the King's List and the timeline at the Temple of Edfu doesn't apply to modern calendars. It simply doesn't. So we don't know what kind of stretch of time we are talking about here. And when we know that now, and we can understand that now, and we go back and we look at the list of pyramids and their established and the dynastic periods and their construction times and how they overlap on top of each other, that simply doesn't make any sense. So maybe the calendar is just completely off and we don't understand that. And maybe we do have to take a better look at Edfu, a better look at the King's List, and try to establish something else that makes more sense. If we take this 3,000 year marker from 3000 BC to year 0 or 33 BC, Cleopatra, and we take a look at that, it may not, as crazy as it sounds, it may not be 3,000 years. It might be 10,000 years, which completely upsets the apple cart and turns everything over sideways. We know we can look at Greece and get some things that are pretty solid. We can look at Rome and take some things that are pretty solid, but that's recent history compared to the deep ancient history of Egypt. And hopefully someday we're going to understand more and more and figure things out. And that's why I am here. And that's why I did the presentation tonight. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I just keep collecting information and it keeps getting put off. And I've got more that I didn't get to tonight, but maybe we'll do that at a later date. But always remember now, after this presentation today, I'm going to be in Egypt in October. And every site that I go to and every pyramid that I walk inside of and everything that I do, I am thinking about this stuff that I talked about tonight. That's right. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, right here, Robert Grant. Robert Grant is on Fade to Black tomorrow night. And then Wednesday, right here, Ralph Blumenthal. Thursday night, of course, is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for letting me just get this out. It's been killing me. It's been killing me, but this is how my brain works. So think about it. Go do your own research. I've given you everything to go and take a look at. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. And this broadcast owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from the Game Changer Network or Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Robert Grant. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.